I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. My name is Matt Bowen. I'm the current chairperson of the City of La Mesa's Community Services Commission. We provide support and advice to the City of La Mesa on all things park and recreation. And on behalf of the Commission and the City of La Mesa, we'd like to welcome you to our third workshop for the preparation of the new La Mesa Parks and Recreation Master Plan. It's been an exciting process as we're moving forward, and I want to thank all of you for coming tonight and participating. We're going to have a presentation tonight by Jacob with the law consulting firm of KTUNA, who the city has hired to prepare the master plan. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce Councilmember Jack Shu. We'll say a few words, and then Jacob from KTUNA will come and lead us off. Councilmember, thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Good evening. So this is something that's close to my heart, and as a city council member, I thought if I could get to a few of these things and just simply say thank you for participating and being here. It's so important that I think La Mesa has a strong recreation program, and we have great facilities, we have great staff, we have a great commission. Thank you, Matt, for helping and participating in this. We have great participation. We have great people in La Mesa, so thank you for being a part of that. With regards to this process of a general plan, it's so important that we have something that's really forward-thinking and really something that will take La Mesa to a better place with regards to recreation facilities. So let me explain a little bit of what that looks like to me. When I see a picnic table, I don't see just concrete or wood and chair. I want to think about what that picnic table really does. It provides a place for families to eat together, for 2 or 3 people and friends to get together. And they have a place in a safe zone to share a meal or just to talk. That has so much of a social dynamics benefits to those people involved and to our community. That's what recreation is all about. It's those kinds of that level of impact to our communities. So whether it's an arts program, whether it's a baseball field, please think beyond what the facility is. But we've done a pretty good job of distributing recreation resources and mapping them and where we're short. And there's more data in terms of the demographics of our city and who may need more programs for seniors, youth, families. But I hope tonight and our plan thinks much beyond the physical nature and the first few layers of what our program's recreation is about. So since I believe in recreation, I think recreation can save the world. So I hope you can think in that lane, in that vein. So thank you so much for participating. We have great staff in La Mesa. We have great brain power, all of you. We have great consultants and commissions. So thank you so much. I don't say at these things because you can tell I'm going to influence it too much. So thank you so much for being here and have a great evening.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Councilmember. Thank you so much, Matt, for giving us that introduction today. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jacob Leon. I know some of you have seen me before in previous projects, and for some of you, I'm new. I have the honor of serving as project manager for this Parks and Recreation Master Plan for the City of La Mesa. So welcome to workshop number 3. It's made possible by the team at the City of La Mesa, but also by my team members here at K2A. I have Nicole and Chris here with us supporting me today, and one more workshop after this that'll be scheduled a little shortly after. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk you through essentially what we've heard so far based on all of the previous outreach that we've done. So that includes focus group meetings, that includes the first 2 workshops, that includes diving into the statistical violence survey a little bit more. So the first 3/4 of my presentation is informational, it's educational. I don't expect you to read every single word or bullet on here. 2 things, it's being recorded, as we mentioned earlier, but also everything's basically behind you in the photo boards. So after I present, my team and I will be more than happy to walk around, get into it a little bit deeper, and hopefully answer all of your questions. There is one activity, it's the tables at the very back that I'll go over in my presentation as well. So what I'm going to do though is First, I'm gonna provide you a little bit of background for those of you who are brand new to this master plan. Now, those who've seen this presentation, I'm not gonna go through all of the slides. I know those were a lot last time. It's only, I know you're laughing over that. It's a selection of those slides, but it is important to remind people of some of those important maps and tables that are necessary for this kind of Parks and Rec master plan. But again, as a reminder, it's meant to be comprehensive. It's meant to provide your community and the city clear set of goals for the next 10, 15, 20 years. Lots of community engagement. And of course, one of the big things is how do we take your big ideas and how do we find funding sources for it? So all of that will be included in this kind of master plan. We're wrapping up step 3. We're really getting close to getting into those draft recommendations, starting to work into the master plan itself so that we can start really seeing the full picture after all these processes that we've done. So I'm really excited to finally be getting into step 4 of this planning process. So now for my existing conditions recap, I'll get right into it. It begins with understanding, as council member said, where are your parks located? How well are they distributed? And really getting to know what the conditions are at these parks. So my team and ourselves, we've been out to your parks multiple times, taking pictures, recording information, really trying to figure out, what's there, what isn't there, and the condition that they're in. And again, how they're spread out throughout the city. We're really trying to understand, quality and equity as relates to the different kinds of amenities that each of your parks have. So this is really important, especially as my team and I start getting into the recommendations part of this master plan. Now for the level of service, this is one of those fancy terms that I have to present to you all. It's really important for this kinds of master plans. This basically is trying to explain to anybody of essentially how much park acreage, how much access to open, park space there is in a city. And that's compared to your actual population, how many people live here and how many people are expected to, live here in the future in La Mesa. So in this table that you're seeing here, it's, we're trying to explain we have 120 acres of parkland right now. Based on your population of 61,000 people from 2021 census data, we calculate how many acres of park you have for every 1,000. That acres per 1,000 is a standard protocol for parks and rec planning across the country. That's what us, planners use. So based on all of these numbers, the city right now has 2 acres for every 1,000. When we're using the goal of 3 per 1,000. So what that's saying is that if you wanted to reach your goal of having 3 acres for every single person in La Mesa, you need about 60 more acres of open land. Okay. I tell everybody that more often than not, cities in Southern California are going to be in a deficit because we're pretty built out. We have a mix of industrial, residential, that sort of thing. So these numbers aren't too bad though when we're using the 3 per 1,000. But for full transparency, we do want to communicate that most cities across Southern California actually have a bigger aspirational goal of 5 acres for every 1,000 residents in their city. So of course, your deficit increases if you have a bigger goal of 5 for 1,000. So as you can see, with that number, you would need approximately 180 extra acres. Now you're probably saying, Jacob, you're crazy. Where are we going to find 180 acres of open land? I totally understand that. It's the same thing I have to basically say to all of our other clients in Southern California. It's going to be tough, but it doesn't mean that there aren't ways to reduce these deficits, get creative, and try to figure out how we can provide parks and rec opportunities for all of your community members. This is one of the tables that I have back there, and I'm going to zoom in momentarily. But we do this exact same type of analysis for the amenities. These tables basically tell us, do you have surpluses or deficits of basketball courts, volleyball courts, tennis, rec centers, community centers, that sort of thing. So if we zoom in a little bit and we use these guidelines, we can start seeing here in the red, what are you looking good in and what should we try to get more of, right? So the things in red, I'll just name a couple of things. Volleyball, it's saying, hey, you should try to get 4 more courts. It's somewhere in the city. You should try to get 6 more rectangular fields for like soccer and lacrosse, that sort of thing. It's saying, hey, you're actually doing pretty good. You should have 1 good pool for your city. And so you're right on target. So it's kind of like, a way to understand how many kind of extra amenities or things you may need for your city. Oh, thank you, Sue. Let's see if.
It's right in front of the swimming pool. Really important.
I think that's a safe corner, actually, if you put it up there. I don't think I put anything important in the top right corner. Yeah. Great, so I'll keep moving forward then. Let's see. Actually, Sue, can you do me a favor and click onto, I think that messed up. Maybe click on the slide. I think it's overriding my clicker. Like hit tab. There we go. Perfect. Thank you so much. Perfect. Great. Okay, now it's just a couple maps to communicate. What you're seeing now are your parks in your city, and the green outlines are representing a half-mile distance from your parks. So we're trying to communicate how much coverage do you have when it comes to a half mile, which is approximately 12-minute walk. Like if I'm angry or need to rush that, I'll get there in 8 minutes. Or if I'm taking my time, it's more like 15, 16 minutes. But more or less, this is a half-mile distance, right? Here, though, the orange, what you're seeing now are the residential areas, because we want to try to pinpoint when it comes to master planning, it's like, where are the people living and how are they going to get to their parks? So now with this kind of layering, we can try to really get a better understanding where are there gaps in the city. And of course, you have some gaps in the west and the north. But what was made super apparent to us a couple of months ago when we first started this, that there is a big gap that we need to try and hopefully fill in that central west part of La Mesa. So again, just wanted to draw that to your attention because some of you may live in this area and this may resonate with you. And so this is a big priority for us to try to figure out in the recommendations phase. So now for community engagement, the major point of today's workshop is for me to report back essentially the highlights. What have we heard so far? And then hopefully you resonate with the boards with everything you're about to hear. And then of course, it's your opportunity to give us more information, more feedback. But we took that survey what came out in February. Again, 470 were completed, so that's a great return rate. We completed 2 workshops. Raise your hand if you came out to one of our previous workshops. Great, awesome. So about half of you. That's great. Half of you coming back and half of you are new. This is perfect. So again, we have one. Today is number 3, and we'll have one more afterwards. For those who weren't able to come to those first 2 workshops, we did a little short survey and we got about 15 responses from that. And then of course, our team completed several focus group meetings to again supplement the things we were hearing at the workshops themselves. So I'm going to walk you through some of the survey highlights because this is important. A lot of work went into this. The consultant ETC who was in charge of this was able to provide us the results for us to take a deeper dive in and try to see what are these trends and themes that are really important for us here. But I'm going to quickly define what a statistical valid survey is. It's really a method to collect accurate, unbiased data from a community for a specific project. It usually includes mailing out thousands of surveys randomly throughout the community. And hoping that people fill that out. And then this process also includes an open survey. So these analysts can compare and contrast the results and try to statistically make sure that there is a balance of the two. Really important, we do these for all these kinds of master plans. And so it helps inform many decisions as we move forward. What's really great though is I wanted to point out that with the 470 surveys that were completed, the analysts did basically tell us that it did represent the demographics of La Mesa. So that's good news. It means that 90% of the survey results weren't from one specific demographic. It was like a good spread of community members in the city. So it was a good balanced, approach. So I'm going to go through these relatively quickly. This information and they're in the boards behind you over there, but I just want to vocally talk about the first one, which is a park and rec facilities and amenities that are important to you. No surprise, trails, linear recreation, passive parks, aquatics, playgrounds, dog parks are ranks number 1. You can see those top 5, especially the top 3, were overwhelmingly important for your community. And when you compare it to the longer list of other amenities. So it's fascinating to us to see what are like the big, hot topic items for La Mesa. We wanted to specifically, though, see from that big list, what was the number 1 choice? And actually, the same top 5 were the first choice for those who responded to that previous question. But with here, you can see it was the pool, the aquatic center that was number 1. Pretty tied to trails and pathways. So those 2 things, are, super important for the community. Now, equally important are the programs, right? Because they supplement all of the infrastructure, all of the physical things in your city. So what were the 5 most important programs to your household? And special events, fitness, wellness programs, hobby classes, outdoor fitness programs, and art programs were the top 5 results. They weren't as drastic, in terms of, how were the top 5 divided compared to like the other 15 options. You can see they're a little bit closely in line, but there's still a clear top 5 when it came to this question. Now we wanted to pull out the information again for the first choice, who selected this as their number 1, and 3 of the 5 were consistent, but some new ones included swimming programs were important. And art performances, so more theatrical type programming, made it into the top 5. But you can see these are really close to each other. There wasn't like a drastic, obvious top 5 when it came to the recreation programming here in the city. So just, food for thought, something to think about. I personally like this question, and hopefully it makes sense. The survey asked you, how are you willing to support the city in making these improvements? So one thing is to say, I like this, or the pool is number 1, or basketball is number 1. But are you willing to be like, hey, the city, I need you to implement this? So it's like psychologically, it's an interesting way to think about your choice in the previous questions, right? And so, but we wanted to, just for the purposes of today's presentation, I pulled out those who said very supportive or supportive. So on the positive side, there's too much negativity in the world. So I wanted to stay positive today. So these were the top very supportive or supportive things here. And yeah, as you can see here, it's a good mix of things, right? Between adding shade to parks, building more community gardens, public art, the aquatic center, again. So you'll see overlapping themes over and over in my presentation. And so, yeah, and here we can see it's the split visually. Again, pretty close to each other, but the top 2 were pretty obvious. Once again, walking, biking, trails, it's still number 1, And then as a general question, right, what's important generally? The maintenance, right? The quality of your parks, safety, security, preserving open space, were the top results in this question. Now for the first 2 workshops, raise your hand to who attended. I think I asked you already, who attended the first 2 workshops? Yes? Awesome. So maybe you might be here. Hopefully we picked good pictures, but thank you again for those who came out to the first 2 workshops. We really appreciate it. We were able to gather the information and summarize the things that we heard from these. And this is one of the boards we have here. But I'm not going through all of them, but you'll see there's good consistency across from all the different things that we've done. Again, natural park elements, open space, community center, the dog parks, maintenance, walking trails, all in the top 5 when it came to the comments that we received at this workshop. The comments that were here, these are from the survey that I told you, those 15 responses. We asked them similar questions, and again, similar things came up regarding maintenance, quality, safety, open space, that sort of thing. So this is a board, and you can read all of these in more detail after the presentation. We did focus group meetings, as I mentioned earlier, and again, the order shifted in terms of how many of the comments we received, but you're going to see again a lot of similar things from all those focus group meetings, the community centers, safety, sports fields, park connections, maintenance, and the top 5. Now, highlights. These are like the big themes that Nicole and myself heard over and over. So family-oriented elements, making sure that we have those all throughout the year. Updating the existing parks. Again, that's connected to the quality and the maintenance and the safety of these parks. I'll talk a little bit louder. Okay, I know the AC just kicked in. Can you still hear me okay? Okay, thank you. Park gaps. So making sure we're filling in those gaps in the city where a community member may not have access to them. You heard a little bit about this in our earlier when Councilmember Shu spoke. It's about is there responsibility for mental health and recreation and how that the sociological aspects of Parks and Rec. And then, of course, other comments include things like, let's be fiscally responsible. Let's create more awareness of what's out there right now. And again, public safety were sprinkled into there. These 4 elements are just some of the takeaways that my team and I walked away from basically the past 3 months. That there is consistency across the infrastructure and the program aspect of everything we've heard. and that it generally it does align with everybody's willingness to make these kinds of improvements. Um, the rec programming, though, there's a big want and need for a lot of these rec programs, but a lot of them do rely on indoor facilities, like actual buildings and spaces, which this, as you probably know, the city is limited in. And then lastly, um, it's the balance, right? We have the things from the survey, we have the focus group meetings, we have people here in person. We'll do our best to balance everything out to make sure we're equitable across the board. Okay. And this is a little more educational, but remember, there's the programming part of a master plan. So there's a good variety of things that the city already tries to offer for the year round for youth, adults, and seniors. And so, they put out their catalog I think it's every 2 quarters combined. I think for fall and winter it was combined, but the good stuff that the city's offering with the limited resources that they have. What we did is we were curious, what were the top registration numbers? What have people actually been participating in? And so what's great is that there is a good mix, but it does lean a lot into the youth and like the toddler age group. A lot of those are in the top 12 right here, but they're sprinkled in. There are some for adult and senior in here. So it is a good mix. But I think what this tells us also is that we can try to figure out if there are any gaps, like what maybe the city isn't currently offering or short on, so that there's more variety and registration numbers and program offerings for your community. And this cannot be done alone. The city has some great partnerships. I'm sure a lot of you know about the Parks and Rec Foundation. They do a lot to support the city. So they help them, especially with special events. The big ones that the city tries to host year round. Things like the Earth Day Festival, the Art in the Park fundraiser, the movies in the park, that sort of thing. And then, of course, there's the Athletic Council. For those of you who have participated in sports, especially team sports, youth sports, you know how involved they are with the city and trying to figure out with the limited field resources. They do their best to try to spread the love for all the different kinds of sports. So again, it's a big partnership. I'm going to end my presentation with, I'm almost done, I promise. Just some trends. This is important because it's good to know what's happening now, what's popular or what you may need more of. But on a national level, it's also good to just kind of see what's happening. How do we compare ourselves to others? So using National Recreation Parks Association, every year they put out several postings on what's happening in the country. So linear recreation, shocker, number one, it's still the most popular and demand thing. The pandemic even highlighted this even more, just being able to get out and just walk or bike, just it's the number one thing. And I really don't see this slowing down anytime soon. Pickleball, it's still growing, super popular. But in the past year, the noise complaints have been a big thing across the nation. So it's something to think about. Sports sampling, a lot of agencies across the country are, in terms of equity, they're trying to maybe go into underrepresented communities. They're doing like this thing where they have multiple different sports in like a 4-hour window, and they let little kids try out different sports all at the same time to expose them and kind of get them excited for something, in the future. Bike, things like pump tracks, skate park or a combination skate park, pump tracks, mountain biking, super popular. Lots of agencies across the country are trying to add pump tracks in some of their parks. Mental health and parks, super important. Meditation, yoga, that sort of thing continues to increase. And then dog parks, we are building higher density housing. We love our dogs, and that means more dogs. So the demand will grow for dog parks, so neighborhood pop-ups, these are more like special events, but again, recreation, it's about socializing. A lot of cities, agencies are again going out into underserved communities and doing little neighborhood pop-up events like block parties to get the community out and about together. And then lastly, I think I mentioned this at my last presentation, esports continues to grow. It's interesting, right? Like esports, you think, oh, in your room, gaming online, it's a solitary thing. But what a lot of Parks and Rec agencies are doing is they're inviting the youth to a rec center and they're setting up like competitions so they can socialize with each other with esports. So it's like a new way to think about socializing in the online world. So fascinating to me. And I think we haven't seen much of this here in Southern California, but some agencies, some of our other clients have shown interest in, trying this out. Now, I'm going to end with basically, I'm going to go over the activity. I know some of you already started, those of you who came early. So thank you if you already started putting post-its and stickers. But what we wanted to do is get your feedback, because this is today's one of the last opportunities to give us direct impact on some of the things you want to see at specific parks. So what you have here are maps that have outlined opportunity areas. And basically it's we wanted to look at, are there certain spots within your existing parks? Maybe it's dirt areas or of flat-ish grass, which is really hard to find in La Mesa. Flat piece of grass in your hilly city is really, really hard. So we're trying to figure out what are some of these opportunity areas to add something that might be missing? Because you saw that list earlier. There you have deficits in a lot of things. So this exercise, we want your opinion. It's still high level. We're not getting to design or details, none of that, but it is a way to start filtering what the community wants to see at your parks. So, and this feedback is going to go straight into what I'll be presenting at the final workshop. So there are table maps. So look at the blue outlines, the little polygons, and look at the table. So those are your blue polygons. And what you're going to see is you're going to see its table associated with it. If it's a white box, that means we were trying to make a judgment call that this thing could fit here, more or less. And if you like that, place a sticker there. The gray box means it wouldn't fit there. Just more or less ignore that. So we just want to see what your thoughts are at, because we'll count these, and then we'll, report back and kind of make some judgment calls as to like what would make sense. So this is the main activity for tonight, in addition to just learning more about everything that our team has done for the past 4-6 months. So things to look out for. We're going to put together a simple little short survey that'll supplement this presentation for those who couldn't make it. So that'll be, we'll make that available shortly after. We're going to summarize the feedback, and our team is going to jump right into putting together a list of recommendations. We haven't scheduled that fourth and final workshop, but we'll make sure to announce that to everybody once that's on the calendar. So again, thank you so much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make some time right now to answer some general questions. We have a microphone that we'll pass around, that we can hopefully pick it up to my phone that's beneath me over here for the recording. But yeah, once we'll spend about 10 minutes answering general questions. It is an open house after that, so we'll be here with you. We can talk things through. But once you feel like you're good, you've given the feedback that you need, go home, enjoy the rest of your night. I know we're battling for your attention here tonight, so as soon as you feel good, go on home, and then I hope to see you again soon for that final workshop. So thank you so much. Thank you for listening to me for this time. Sue.
Yes, can you is the next slide have that email address on it?
Perfect.
Yeah, okay, let's leave that up.
We'll leave that up. Yep.
Thanks again for coming. I'm Sue Richardson. I'm the Director of Community Services, and so I've worked with them to facilitate all of this for you. A couple things you'll notice before we get into the question and answer, or the question part, is you'll notice back here that a couple of parks are not included. So Wait, our new park that we've been working on a master plan specifically for, is not here because we've already gotten the public input for that, and we are probably in the next month taking that to City Council for adoption, because we finished the environmental studies for that. And so the draft master plan, the environmental supported the findings in the recommendation. So that one's going to move forward, and then we'll just wait for funding, hopefully, to move into the next design phase. MacArthur Park is not back here because that's also its own separate master plan. And we will be picking up the MacArthur Park master plan. We have a draft of the final, but that kind of happened during COVID. And so we're going to do a little bit more of analysis. We're going to take this statistically valid survey, and we'll be having one more public meeting on the MacArthur Park master plan. Hopefully this fall, we'll be able to get that going. So we'll be having another special meeting just on MacArthur Park. So then we can finalize those recommendations. And then I think Briarcrest wasn't back there because it's a nice, and Vista La Mesa, because we had just renovated those. We've just renovated Vista La Mesa. And if you haven't been over there recently, we just put a brand new shade structure up over the picnic area to finalize what we had done in 2017 when we opened those renovations. And then of course, Collier Park is under construction right now with that master plan. We are on target to finish that up around the end of October. So look for a grand opening of Collier Park coming late October or early November. The next thing, they were down there putting up the picnic shelter today, and we're waiting for the playground to get installed because that's going to be really nice. But we're getting to the end of Collier Park also. And so I think everything else is back there though for recommendations on improvements. And then while I have you, before you have your questions, a couple of events coming up. That way I won't have to make the announcement at the end. We have a movie in the park this Friday night here at MacArthur Park is Super Mario Brothers. So we'll have vendors and entertainment starting at like 5:30, and then the movie starts right at dusk, around 6:15, I think is when we think it's going to be dark enough to start the movie. And then on October 7th is our annual fundraiser. The Misty and La Mesa Park and Recreation Foundation is putting on La Mesa Rocks, which is the annual fundraiser for the parks. And so the money that's raised at this event goes to things like improvements that we'll be identifying here for shade over playgrounds, for fitness, fitness equipment in parks and things that we can do kind of low hanging fruit, I'll say, with the funding that the Park and Recreation Foundation gives back to the city. So, okay. Oh, and again, if you have questions, let's use a mic because we're recording it with the Zoom and it won't get on the Zoom if you don't use the mic.
Great. Perfect.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Brand, and I have a couple of questions, so I'm just gonna get them all out so other people have a chance. You showed a half-mile radius around the parks and showed the neighborhoods that it serves. Did you also take into consideration contiguous sidewalk? So if it's a half-mile radius, but you don't have a safe path of travel to that park, then it makes it inaccessible. So I wanted to know for just a standard person as well as somebody in a wheelchair. So I wanted to know, is that incorporated or will be incorporated in your report?
Great question. We just used the center line of the road itself to figure out the half mile. It did not take into consideration existing sidewalk or not. So it was just it's like a tier 2 level analysis. It's not just like a half mile circle that we plop on top of the parks. It does use the road network, but unfortunately that did not include actual sidewalk data.
So we can't really say that that's serving the areas that you showed on the circle.
With the analysis that's already been completed, not necessarily to that detail, but I can talk to our team and see if we have that GIS data layer that does have that, and then pending budget, I think that could be an analysis that we can complete for the report itself, and that would show a different picture than this.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, it would.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the rec program, I know a lot of the specialty workshops were done with city entities, city departments, city groups. So you talk a lot about you need the more rec space, but I mean, we were promised the new library. We all heard this before, over 10 years ago. Had we have that library, we would have interior rec space. So again, I'm sorry, but this goes back to MacArthur Park and this $34 million rec center that the community never asked for, but the city put in the plan. I know it's coming back, so we could discuss that later. I just want to make the comment.
Thank you.
Collier Park, I want to emphasize as well, is because yes, you are now completing phase 1 and phase 2 of that master plan, but there's a third phase to the master plan. So even though current phase will be completed, there is more that's supposed to be done at that park. And that's pretty much all I want to say.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Great.
Any other questions? Yep.
Thank you. Mine is just more clarification of what's the overall timeline of these master plans going into? Is this like a 10-year plan? Like what are the goals as far as when we might see, some of these changes and updates?
Great. Yeah. These kinds of master plans are meant to be 10, 15-year kinds of plans. They don't come about very often either. A city typically updates or creates a master plan every 7 to 8 years. So that's why there's a little bit longer. That doesn't mean though that we aren't identifying low-hanging fruit or immediate type of recommendations. So our master plan will include short-term, mid, and bigger visionary projects. So a mix of everything. So it'll vary, right? Depending on the amenity, those could be things that could be worked into a city's, budgeting CIP process for the following year. And the bigger things may require additional like design and engineering, that sort of thing. So we'll do our best to have a mix there.
Thank you.
John Schmitz, and Kathleen mentioned the library, and I noticed on your survey, it included information, asking for information on the library and its needs. Is your report going to acknowledge a better library? The city council now has given staff direction on improving the library we have. And if we're going to meet some of those passive activity goals that you mentioned in your presentation, are you counting the library as a feature that could be relied upon to provide that?
Yeah, no, good question.
So the survey was done in congruent with the library project. And so they took the data and asked for passive space for yoga and music and things also that would take place in a library. And then we took typical recreation programs that would take place in a recreation center. And so those questions regarding the library went to that library study for the improvements of the future library or library renovations. And then we took the park and recreation stuff, but we didn't want to confuse the community by sending out two separate surveys. We did it in conjunction together as a team. And so the library answers to those questions went to the master plan for the La Mesa Library, which just, as John mentioned, the city council just approved. I'm working on a plan to expand the library into what is now the post office and start working towards that to make the existing library larger. And then we would take the park and rec questions for what we're working on this master plan.
I guess my point in question is, this is the community services department and the library is a community service. And I hope that all of your activities include the library in that.
Great. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Were there any hands?
Anybody else?
Am I right over here? Any question? Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Dennis Anderson, and I'm born and raised in La Mesa and now moved back here. And these are my parents and some of my friends. And it's like my first one of these meetings, so catching up on all this and learning about all of it. But we grew up riding BMX and skateboards and all that stuff, and we're just trying to get filled in on how to start the move for building some sort of bike park or skate park or something like that. And I'm actually a professional BMXer and got to travel the world and see a bunch of other communities with really awesome bike parks and how awesome they are for communities. So I can do a lot of helping with that and have a lot of good insight and a cool vision to help with that in the future. But I'm moving back and going to be a resident here for the rest of my life. So I'd love to help with that.
Great. Great. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and we have, I think maybe Harry Griffin Park, we identified something like that as an option. But we definitely have options to improve our existing skate park. Yes, at La Mesita. And then also we have a bike and skate park in the MacArthur Park Master Plan. So when we have another meeting for that, that would be a good time because that's here at this park. Yes, back in the back by the freeway side. Yeah, so the draft plan for MacArthur Park again is posted on the website. I think the plan there doesn't have skate park, but it was feedback that we got that we said we were going to probably put a skate park back there too.
Yeah.
But we'll have that follow-up meeting about that. It won't be the design phase, be just a placeholder for. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And just generally for those, I thank you for wanting to be involved. A citywide park and rec master plan like this is the perfect time for you to come and kind of talk about these things. Because unfortunately, these kind of master plans don't happen every other year. They're literally like every 7 to 8 years. So thank you for being here and make sure that you write down notes, make sure you put down stickers and come out to the final one that will be, scheduling before the end of the year or early next year.
Thank you.
My question, I think my question is pretty simple, but is all of the information on your website?
This we are posting like previous workshop materials on the website, and then the draft plan, the plan itself will be posted once it's made and once we actually do it.
So every upcoming meeting and fundraiser, that's all on this website?
All of that gets posted to the city's website. Mhm.
And what about these surveys that you were saying that were given to the city? How were those?
Those get announced through social media and through email listservs. So like the registrations and that sort of thing.
Okay,
it is-
so if you're
it is
not
primarily
looking
an
for them,
online
you don't
thing.
really know they're coming.
Correct. Well,
So
exactly.
that's what I'm trying to figure out, like, now I would kind of know to watch. 'cause
Keep an eye out,
I'm
exactly.
just like amazed. I've
Yeah.
lived here for over 30 years and
Mhm.
done nothing but drive to BMX parks far away. So I'd kind of like to not miss this information.
Great, no, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, keep an eye out, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Right here.
Anybody
one
else
sec.
ready to get started?
Okay, we'll take that last question. I don't think I saw a hand over here, did I? No, okay, we'll conclude with this over here. Mhm.
What was the average age for all the people that filled out the survey?
That, I would have to look back at the results. It was a good spread. It was the pie itself, the pie graph that we had, it was a nice split between the different age groups. As you can imagine, it's like 65 up, it's like 0 to 12, like 12 to 20 something. So it was a good even split of things. But if you wanted the exact number, I'm sorry, I don't have that off the top of my head.
Yeah, I have a few pages of the survey over there,
Okay,
but
so
I'm
maybe
not
through
sure
that.
if that the pie chart matched what the demographics of the city were, and so we took it out of the presentation because it turned out being great. Yeah, I see you over there too.
I'm just wondering, how will be when you'll be sending out for the next round for MacArthur Park? How will we know when the next meeting is? Can we get on an email list, or do we just need to keep checking every week, or how to go about that to make sure we don't miss it?
So we will put out a press release, which we did for this one too. So if you looked in the regular newspaper, you might have seen it. We have it on our website, all of the city social media. So if you're on Instagram or Facebook, follow the City of La Mesa, City of La Mesa Community Services. So we put all those out of all of our programs. If you go on the city website, there's a contact me, there's a page, and you could say, send me information about the environmental sustainability or the Community Services Commission or anything like that. And the Agenda Center also, because we put it with the Community Services Commission, we try to have it on the same night as the normal commission meeting, which is always the second Wednesday of the month here at the Community Center in the conference room. So you're always welcome to come to that as well if you're interested in hearing what's going on in Park and Recreation every month. It's kind of keep an eye on the city website, and probably easier is the city social media to follow that, and then you'll see. And then we share it to like La Mesa Happenings and to other Envision La Mesa. There's a couple other groups that have websites or social media too, and we'll share it around all of those to try to get the broadest coverage. Okay.
Great. And we have a final question over here. Yeah.
She wants to run.
It's kind of to that point as well. I'm always just astounded at 60,000 people, right, who live here, and 15 people filled out that survey. And it's anything that the city is doing where there's meetings and council meetings. It's always astounding how ignorant the main part of our community is on all these activities. But I think that they should be more involved with, but whatever. Beyond, obviously, you're somewhat limited to, posting on your social media, putting out press releases and things like that. But maybe like, what other ways can we get more creative to get that word out? Is there maybe some, instead of like, well, we posted it on our social media, but maybe there could be initiatives of like, how do we get more of the population to follow us on social media or things like that, or being at the farmer's market, or I don't know, other ways, but it's just, I feel like the messages of a lot of important things are never getting out.
And just to follow up with the 15 surveys were the general public ones. The 460 people were the ones that were mailed and people returned. So we had that actually counted as a really good return rate for the percentage of the population that they wanted to get. So that's what makes it statistically valid. The 15% were just general people who saw it on Facebook or wherever we posted it on the website that said, here, you can fill this out and we'll match it to the statistically valid. So the statistically valid survey is the one that we follow because it represents the people who didn't show up at the meeting or that didn't have social media, because we physically mailed them a survey and it got returned. They either went online or they called or they mailed it back.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest question. That's super hard. That's a great question. We ask ourselves that every day. Okay. So Jacob, you want to start the workshop part now? Oh, Bob.
I'm Bob Duff. I'm a former member of the Community Services Commission. Had to give it up because of poor health. It wasn't mentioned that there is indoor activity, recreational activity taking place every Sunday night at the Senior Adult Enrichment Center.
Mhm.
It's square dance, and we're starting new classes right now.
Perfect.
We counted that in the activities for seniors, but that happens on
That's a
Sunday
good-
nights at the Adult Enrichment Center.
It's a good reminder.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, everybody, thank you. Thank you so much for the open questions. Around the room, you're gonna see essentially my presentation in printed format. There are different stations. So you have, for example, to your left over here, the workshop summary, and then you have stakeholder summaries. Back to your back right, we have the statistically valid survey boards, we have recreation boards, and then of course the back tables have the park maps. It's where you're gonna put stickers and commentary on all of the different parks. So we're gonna stop recording. And then I'll go hang out with you in the back. Again, thank you so much for sitting down with us. We appreciate it.